Fred, you ready?
Yeah.
Everyone, Mike's on.
I knew that about you.
All right. We will call this meeting to order, and the next order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, board members, happy springtime day, finally. We have an agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ross and Colleran. Any discussion? Great. All in favor of the agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Excellent. We have an agenda. Okay, next item under communication and recognition, the open forum. We do have one speaker, Cecilia, so you're welcome to come up. And just as a reminder, open forum is an opportunity for us to listen and hear and ask questions. It's not a forum for decisions or what actions, but we will certainly follow up as appropriate. Okay, thank you.
Oh, well. All right. So Cecilia Lauby, I'm a parent and live in Chaska. What I'm asking today is that this is circulated to the members of the board. It's about closing the achievement gap of students with disabilities. One way to do that is leveraging summer school and summer opportunities to do that. So today I'm pleased that we're going to hear about an update of some inclusive activities for some of our kids, which is the first step, which is a good step. But there are also two other elements to that. And one element of that is graduation rates, and the other element is employment opportunities. So you're going to see in this document, both of those rates are really low among special ed students. And as a parent, is of great concern to me because both of them represent the opportunity for our kids to become independent, which is the ultimate goal. So really the question that I have to the forum today, which I would like to get answered, is are we really measuring the right things in order to ensure the students with disability has an equal opportunity to become independent? So we'd love to hear that answer. And the other element of this is also understanding what inclusion really is. And the true measure of inclusion is acceptance. And I have to tell you, we're far from being successful in terms of acceptance. We're given a geographic space for a student to participate, but we're not there in acceptance. So as a parent, ultimately, I want my kid to be accepted by others, just the way that he is, with the quirky stuff, with the weird stuff, and with the challenges that come with it. So take a look. Looking forward to hearing from you. And you could ignore this and think that it only represents an impact or an issue for 10, 15% of the people that you represent, or you have an opportunity and a choice to really look into it. It's up to you.
Great.
All right? Thanks.
Thank you, Cecilia. Appreciate your passion and the information. I'm sure we'll take a look.
Well, I'm just a parent, right?
Absolutely. All right. Okay. We will move on to 2.2, communications from student representatives. Haley, you are on.
Okay. So it's obviously super nice for the spring sports to be finally outside. I know that it was the first time that the softball girls got outside, baseball got outside, tennis was outside Friday, I believe, and they have a match tonight. So it's super awesome to finally get out. It was really nice out. So we got all our spring sports. They're trying to catch up on their games and all that. DECA, there was, I think we had about 6 students go to DECA Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia, I believe it was. Noises Off is our spring play that's going on. Relay for Life for our district is on Saturday. That goes Chaska and Chan. We combine for that. So that's on Saturday, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then juniors take their ACT tomorrow, so most kids do not have to go to school. Senior project is setting in for most seniors to get our assignments in, so we have the opportunity to get out of school that extra week or so, so we can do our senior project. Today was our prom reveal. The theme is A Sky Full of Stars, and that is at Hazeltine again on May 19th, so that was really cool. The BBQ Bash for Chaska is May 4th, and it's a luau theme, and that is at Hazeltine. And then we also had a couple state champs for speech the other weekend too. So yeah, a lot going on.
That's great. Yes, it's the mad rush, the final weeks, and I'm sure you'll be ever attendant to your studies and not.
Oh, I'm not going to be thinking about going outside at all.
You can study outside.
Yeah, but there's so much more
Just wear
to be
sunscreen.
doing.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, 3.0, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? The consent agenda is put forward?
So moved.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, Logue and Berg. Any discussion? All right, excellent. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Excellent. Thank you. All right, moving right along, recommended actions. Dee Dee, following up on the budget revisions presented at the last review session.
So the budget revisions were reviewed at the April 9th work session, and revisions were made for proposed for both the general fund and community services funds. The documents you've seen in front of you in your board packet have not changed since the last meeting, and so we are recommending the approval of these budget revisions for the 2017-18 school year.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right. Is there, first, do I have a motion to approve the revisions that Dee Dee's put forward?
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Ross and Meyer. Okay. We did go through this. They're relatively small, bigger revisions in the revenue category, so which is always nice. Any other further questions or discussions as people have had time to absorb it? Okay. All right. Good. I know we did have a fair amount of discussion at Pioneer Ridge, so we should be good. All right. So with that, I'll call it to a question. All in favor of the budget revisions, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great.
Thank you.
Revised budget. Okay, Mr. Christopher.
I'm going to talk a little bit about both of the resolutions, 4.2 and 4.3. Essentially, they are the same. One is geared towards the federal level for our legislators there, and then the other is to the state level. And it deals with supporting legislation for reducing the cross-subsidy for special education, both advocating funds and advocating a special task force to look at how we address those issues moving forward. And as you're probably aware, that cross-subsidy is the difference. We're required by law to provide special education services. And there is a gap between the funding of what it actually costs and what we get reimbursed on, and that's the cross-subsidy. We're actually in a pretty good position here in this district compared to many other districts, but it's still a substantial amount of money. And again, I don't know that the solution is to completely close that gap right away, but again, we're hoping that the task force can look at some steps that will continue to move us in the right direction. I do know that that cross-subsidy is on the kind of the legislative platform for MSBA, MASA, AMSD. Most of them are advocating for that, most of those organizations. And a number of districts have adopted these resolutions, and just that sheer number has at least kind of jump-started the conversation again. And so we also wanted to get that in front of you, kind of to share our voice as a district towards that as well. Lisa, is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
No, only that, thank you for putting this on, on behalf of MSBA, because it has really made a difference. And our legislatures, both at the federal level and at the state level, are taking notice. And this is the only way to let them know that our voices need to be heard on this. So I think our cross-subsidy is around 7 million? 6, yeah. So, and again, it's going to take a lot of money to close it, and we don't see that happening. But trying to get further along that process, even 10% would make a huge difference. So thank you, board members, for putting this on the agenda tonight.
So MSBA is the one kind of urging districts to put these resolutions together to hopefully apply a little pressure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're actually on the tail end of this. A group of MSBA board members went to Washington in February and had a stack of the resolutions and shared that with our Minnesota representatives and to get notice. And it's definitely taken notice at the state level. And I know that there's maybe a little additional funding at the federal level, and maybe a little bit at the state level. But the biggest thing is, let's get a task force in front of this and let's really try and come up with a plan.
And right now, the governor's budget does have some dollars in towards that, but the spending bills, both for the Senate and the House, do not include that. They do include some additional dollars for school safety this year, but we're, again, hoping that through negotiations and continued conversation that there might be a little bit of money for this as well.
Other questions, board members?
And Clint, remind me, what is the gap today in that for our district?
It's about $6 million
Just for our district alone?
for our district alone. Yeah.
So define that gap that's basically where the regulations call for us to spend a certain amount, and that's the level that's basically unfunded.
So the legislation calls for us to provide services for students with special needs, right? So when we look at the total cost of those services, and then we look at what we're reimbursed based both from the state and at the federal level, it's that gap between the two. So
The state or the federal government is supposed to pay 40% of special education costs. Right now, they pay about 15. Or that's the federal level, and then the state is obligated for the remainder.
I think we get a total of about 55 to 60%, Laura?
Yes, it's hard to estimate.
Yeah.
But that is about the right ballpark. And
Yeah.
our cross subsidy is 6.7.
It's getting close to 7.
And are most of the regulations, are they driven by the federal or the state level?
The federal level.
That's what I thought. Okay. Well, it was certainly, obviously, the programs are great. We need them. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just, it'd be nice to get a little more funding with them. Okay?
Klein, before we have any more discussion, we need a motion and a second.
Oh, you're right.
To keep
Yes,
going.
sorry. Okay, can I have a motion? We have to do two, I'm guessing, right? So can I first have a motion for the resolution to fully fund special ed services for the federal, our federal representatives or at the
So
federal
moved.
level? Second. Anderson and Colleran. Thank you. All right, we've had some discussion. Any other discussion on the federal level? Okay. So with that, we will call this will be a roll vote.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
call your last name, please answer with a yes or a no. We'll start with Ross,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Halloran,
Yes.
Logue,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
and Klein.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, 4.3. We'll do it again. Resolution to fully fund special ed services at the state level. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Rossenberg, thank you. All right. So any further discussion? Again, we preempted the process a bit, but
And only that we probably have more chance of making progress at the state level than at the federal level. We have a little bit stronger voice there, and, you know, it's a little closer to us. So at least that's the theory.
okay. How many other districts have come forward with a similar resolution?
Over 300.
Really? Okay, so, all right, so it's overdue, great.
Better late than never.
That's right. So any other questions? All right, then we'll call it to a vote.
Again, when I call your last name, please answer with a yes or a no. Anderson,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Colleran,
Yes.
Loeb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
and Klein.
Yes.
And it passes. Wonderful.
All right, thank you, board members. That's, and Lisa, I wish you and the MSBA well. It would be great to make some progress
It sure
on that.
would. Thank you. Thank you, board members.
Okay, moving on to 5.0 and specifically 5.1. Jackie, would you like to talk about summer programs?
I would like to introduce Jeff Tice, who will talk about summer programs.
And here I thought you were going to do the presentation. Good evening, everyone. Caroline gave me a tutorial prior to this meeting on how to do this, so right here. And slideshow, where's that?
I'll do it for you.
Okay,
You talk.
we'll get it up, and then I can do it. I can't see tonight for some reason. There we go. So you were back and doing summer school. It's a nice night to be thinking about summer, but our summer school this year will start on June 18th and go until August the 2nd. We will be doing a 2-week on, 1 week off for the 4th of July week and then 4 weeks on. So a year ago, Clint had asked us to look at the RAND report that really talked about the importance of summer school and things that we could enhance and change within our current system. So I want to talk a little bit about what we learned, the outcomes that we had from last summer, and then where we're going to go for this summer. So the 3 primary reasons that we're doing summer school is to provide our students with learning opportunities that they may not have received in the course of their life, either at home or through their other schooling, but we want to provide those opportunities. So in our summer school, we really have inserted a lot of community kind of based things where we're bringing people to them and we're taking them on field trips to expose them to opportunities that they may not have received that might align with something they might be learning in school. The other thing we want to provide is strong athletic and art and music activities, again, to give them some healthy kinds of things to do during the course of the summer. And then lastly, and Amy has always talked this about being a summer slide. In summer school, a lot of during summer, a lot of our students will have the summer slide that either their academics will decrease during the summer. So it is a goal to maintain, but also to enhance or increase the students' academic skills during the summer. So those are our 3 goals. The lessons learned from the RAND report that we reviewed is that our summer schools need to have strong, engaging academic enrichment opportunities, exposing kids again to things that they may not see during the traditional school year, but really trying to engage them, trying to create more of a camp atmosphere where students are intrigued with learning and having fun. Team building and social emotional skills are embedded throughout. The personal connection to the teacher. As you know, we have about 600 kids that come to us during the summer. Our teachers don't know all of the students like they do during the traditional school year. So we spend a lot of time the first week really getting to know the students. So there's a lot more team building activities going on in the first week to figure out their best learning style and the things that we can do for them the remainder of the summer. And then obviously, our teachers should be experts in the subject matters that they're instructing in. The other thing that we worked on last year and also this year is curriculum alignment with what's happening during the school year. So we're working on all this power standards that the students are required or asked to receive during the school year. We're front-loading or working with those alignments during the summer as well. We also talked about that we need to have at least 3 hours of instruction in math and English. We did that. We accomplished that by merging it to be 2 lunch periods this year versus 4. So we're able to give more intensive math and English instruction in the morning. And then lastly, smaller class sizes, obviously, no fees for families, and then free transportation and meals. All are embedded with the summer school program. Last summer, we had 648 youth that participated in our summer school program. Of that population, 156 students were receiving special education services. 18 students were on 504 plans, and 127 students were receiving English language programming during the school year. So that's the demographics of our population during the summer. You can see there is a strong percentage of special education and EL students in our summer school programs as well. What we're proud of is the outcomes of when we looked at the data of the MAP scores from spring to fall. Again, keep in mind that maintaining or increasing skill is a positive outcome of summer. So for the first one, for instance, in reading, 78% of our students either maintained or increased in the academic subjects during the from spring to fall. Math, same correlation, about 86% of our students also did well on that. In the middle school, a little bit higher statistics. I think that's 93% in reading increased or maintained, and then math about 88% increased or maintained as well. Then we also had the summer program for 8th graders going into 9th, and that was really to give them a jump start to physics in 9th grade. We only had 16 students involved with that program last year, but of that 16, 10 passed, 3 failed, and 3 are still working on completing the work that they needed to do to get a grade during the course of the school year. And in addition to that, our high school program, which is our credit recovery or credit attainment program, 214.5 credits were awarded last summer to our senior high students. Any questions on that data?
I have a question.
Sure.
So for the percentage of, you said there was 257 tested on one of them, but then you had 648 kids?
Yes.
So that's quite the gap of tested versus
Oh,
actual
but
kids to see the percentage increase?
Are you seeing the reading in the middle school and elementary
Oh, is that what
combination
it
of the
is?
two? Yes.
So they're broken out?
Yes.
So it's not
just
like
the
that?
elementary
Yes, it's not like that on the data,
So how
right?
many, oh, I get it, okay. So it was a good percentage of yours tested, though? Do you see what I'm getting at? Is there, that still
It
would
is.
be, the middle school is only 74 then? Am I seeing
The
that
largest group of those students, of the 600 students, are the elementary students. There's fewer middle school students in that program. Just based on the number of students that we.
Because that's
get.
only 74 students in middle school, so you're still only testing half of your population of people, is that right?
I'm not sure.
So what she's saying is there's 648 youth participated, and then she's looking at the data, which is elementary is 257 tested, and then middle school is 74.
Yeah, so are we missing something to?
So there's 648 students who are elementary, middle school, and high school.
And high school. So you'd have to subtract out the high
What's the
school.
high school?
Oh,
I don't
because
have
they were
those.
involved in
I
credit
don't have those
recovery.
numbers.
So
that
high school
are
students,
subtracted.
we've got in them involved in credit recovery, credit attainment.
So there could be about 175 students in high school in that 643.
It
Do
is
you
a,
feel like you
it
tested
is
a
a
high
significant,
population of
yes.
the percentage?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
'Cause I
And
was
there
just
were
looking at
some
it, it
students.
looked like it was 50% or something.
No. We tested the majority of our students in elementary and middle school.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
If-
Sorry, I
Yeah,
was
there
just
was,
trying
in summer, I see I see the gap there, yeah. And that was my mistake. But yes, that's including high school, middle school, and elementary in the 643.
And to remember, this is spring test to fall, so these kids are in school. We tested them, whatever their attendance was in summer didn't matter. We tested enrolled students.
Right. So
Yeah.
I would think that would be more than a 50, okay.
Yeah.
50%, okay, sorry. I see now.
No, that's okay.
So high school must have been a lot of the 675
Yes.
or something, okay. Thank you,
Right.
sorry, thank you.
No, not a
No,
problem
that
at
was,
all.
real quick, can you go back? I had a quick question on that. Was this the first year we did this program?
Would be the first year last summer that we did the RAND report program. Prior to that, we were a half-day program.
Right.
We didn't have it full for 6 weeks. It was shorter. All the expansion things happened last summer.
Okay.
And so this is the data from last summer.
So this is just, we only have a one-year trend, is what I'm
Yes.
saying. Okay.
One of the
Yes.
things,
Yes,
though,
we
is
Because I want to see the trend.
Yes.
as we look at MAP tests across the district and in multiple districts where I've worked with the MAP assessment, from that spring to fall test, your district average drops.
Right.
Because kids, especially in math, more than reading, it still drops in reading, but more than math, because good readers read during the summer. Kids that are really good at math typically aren't doing a lot of math practice unless they're involved in other activities. So you do see that decrease. And so especially for this population, even to come in at the same level is a huge improvement for them. So to see this growth and kids remaining the same is really a tribute to the program and to the teachers there.
Do we have any sense on what is kind of that, if you have 78 in reading, that either remain the same or increase, and you have 86 in math, how does that compare to the general district as a whole on that testing?
Yeah, I'd have to look specifically at that, but I know especially for that population, it's significantly higher than what I would expect. Most of those kids, you would expect those scores to drop. Because especially if our overall average is dropping, and these students typically aren't hitting those growth targets, we're going to see a decrease in them.
So I love measurables. I mean, that's one of my things that I harp on multiple times. So it's great to see these numbers. I think to the point that Lisa and others are making, it would be helpful to know what that baseline is for a similar cohort. But I guess my follow-up, so that would be helpful for us to kind of judge that and look at what is the progress and true progress as we look at to just make sure we are making the difference that it appears you are. But my second question would be, as you do look at these numbers in terms of those that have increased or remain the same, where do you want to be with those numbers?
Well, always at 100%, but I don't know if that's ever
Yeah.
going to be reality. But every year we can strive to do better and increase those scores and those percentages for students. I think the data, how many of the students attended well during the summer, we didn't go into that. If the students that were decreased, did they have poor attendance in the students? We didn't go that deep into the data. So some of those factors aren't correlated in this data as well.
So it's a little.
But I can tell you last summer, because of the RAND report, we had better attendance and we had better students completing the whole summer school program too.
We've had in the past. But the other thing with this, as we are working on a data warehouse, this specific data set is a little bit challenging because you have to go individually and pull out a student score. You can't just run a report that says, show me these kids. So it's just time to find this specific student, find their spring, fall, and so on, and pull all of that together for those 300 kids. So it's a little time intensive on that. With some of the things that we have available to us, we will next year. It should make crunching some of these numbers a little bit easier on Jeff and the team. So
Good. It'll be helpful to know that baseline, because that really grounds, what does this do? Even if it's not cohort to cohort, it still gives you that sense of.
I mean, ideally, you'd like to have kids in the program, that essentially at risk versus the kids who chose not to, and how do those two compare to one another?
And then you can
I
kind
mean,
of.
that would, yeah, I mean, the point is, I guess, what's the cohort for comparison, right? Is it at-risk kids that don't do the summer program, or is it normal kids that aren't doing the program?
Well, and it sounds like attendance isn't required, right? So
It's
some
encouraged.
kids may not be coming every day. And so some of those that are decreased, we have no idea whether they went through they really went through the program or not.
So
The
to
good
that
thing
point-
that we can say, though, from last summer to past, our attendance increased this summer, and the longevity of students staying in the program increased dramatically.
Good.
Yeah, so
Do you have any measurement of that? I mean, is there any better sense of what kind of attendance, what was the increase?
yeah, I can't remember what we pulled together anymore, but there was.
I know you made a lot of changes to the
Yeah.
program last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
And I don't remember if we presented that when.
last spring.
So Jeff presented some of the, kind of an overview of what the summer was like in the fall to the board. We just didn't have those map results yet. So wanted to make sure he shared those with you tonight. But I'll have to look back at that presentation.
Well, we can't remember either, so.
But I do know, as we have talked about it, it is a higher percentage than what we've had in the past, and more kids actually completed the program.
Right,
but
because that was my point, right? Because I know you made a bunch of changes to the curriculum and the program, and it was just curious to see what anecdotally and qualitatively, obviously it sounds like a market success.
Yeah.
Just curious. And then Jeff, on the participation, the 648 that participated, I mean, what's your sense of, what's the population that should be participating that we're not getting? I mean, any sense for that and how that has changed?
Which data are you looking at now, Tim?
Just the total.
The total enrollment in last year's summer
648,
program?
should
Oh,
that be
so
700, 800?
We sent out about 800 and some registration forms last summer. We do Lori Kendall through the communications department, Worley has worked with us on branding. We think that has helped us to increase enrollment this year because parents are seeing something that's constant. The communications looks like summer school, so when they see it in the mail, it helps. Our registration this year compared to last year probably has doubled at this time of the year in students registering. We will be sending out now to families, it actually went out today, any student that did not register already, an invitation to register again, and we'll send out another email in May to do the same thing. And then we have an alternative list of students that if we don't get the 200 or 350 students that we would like to have in Summer Explorers, the middle school program, then we will send out another invite to that population. So we're thinking that we'll have about 320 to 350 in Summer Explorers for the summer. So we make a lot of effort here to communicate to the families. Our intercultural specialists they see the list. They'll make phone calls to families that might need that translation or support to register their child. So we've done a lot of work with that as well this summer, or this spring.
Yeah, but I mean, even 648 participating in over 800, that's a pretty good percentage.
It is, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you say that there's an additional list so a certain amount of
An
families have
alternative
been
list.
invited already? But then if a certain amount of families do not
Then we have
come,
another
then
list of
another
students.
list is like your second tier of
Yeah.
kids that are in need of it?
Yes.
Is that kind of how it?
Yes. Yeah.
Not to get too far into the weeds, but is it an online registration or is it a paper form registration or how do they?
Well, it can be both, but right now it's pretty much paper form. The parents fill it out and they will give it to their school classroom teacher, or they can send it back to Maggie, their ALC specialist, and then she will register the student.
In terms of the content for the language art and math, are they divided by grade, or is it kind of just by level, or is like some baseline to figure out who should be grouped with who, or how does that work?
By grade.
By grade.
And then within that grade, some groupings.
Okay.
Or individualized instruction. Yep.
And then for the 156 special ed individuals as well, is it the same schedule for them? Are they going
Yes.
through the same program? So are they included in the MAP testing as well in
Yes.
terms of measurable?
Yes.
And how do they look if you pulled out that group as a cohort in terms of, increase, remain the same, decrease? Have you guys looked at that
didn't,
level?
We didn't go to that
Yeah.
level.
Be helpful to see that as well, just kind of that population and the effectiveness there.
Yep.
Again, once
And
we
EL
have
as
that
well.
data warehouse, we actually, probably within a few months, can provide you with all of this information you're talking about. Right now, it's really cumbersome to try to get the right groups of students together to be able to look at the totals. So we'll collect this so that then, as we bring future data forward, we'll be able to show from year to year, are we making gains, are we holding the same? And/or are there groups within the larger group that we're not meeting the needs of or are less effective with?
It's perfect. This is great about good data warehouses.
No, you just made Jeff's dish.
I know way.
Just don't hold us to the 2 months. Few months.
She said few months.
But few, but doesn't few mean two?
This will be one of the things I'll play with.
Ben's going to see an audiologist.
Perfect.
So
Thanks.
can I just go back to the second tier thing that you're just referring to? Is that like the people in this program, they have to qualify based on their math and reading levels of where they're at, right?
It's one of the qualification standards, yep.
It's not just like an additional option for people that are looking for club care or free care. It's kind of what I'm leading to, I mean.
The state has criteria that's set out, and there's like 12 standards. They're like 2 grade levels behind their peers, not online for graduation for the secondary kids. There are criteria.
It's measurements that
Yes.
those are the kids that we're targeting to come to this program. It's
Yes.
not just that they want that opportunity.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. So moving on, Summer Explorer structure, that's our elementary program. So this year, very similar to last year, we took a little bit of a change because parent surveys said that they would like the program to start a little bit later than we did this year. So we're starting at 8:30 and going until 2 o'clock. And kind of the morning is the breakfast, language arts and writing, and then math and STEM. And then we have the block for lunch and recess. In the afternoon, again, we have some great partnerships with our partners within our communities. So from 12:30 until 2 o'clock, on Mondays, the teachers will have a directed STEM project. So the teachers are putting together the Monday afternoons, and it'll be all geared towards STEM. On Tuesdays, Carver Parks and Recreation out of Carver County will be coming in. They usually bring 10 to 12 instructors, and kids will do anything from bow hunting or bow and arrow to fishing to nature hunts or whatever in the afternoon with that group. So it's a real outdoor education, and they provide the instructors, and our teachers support their instruction. And then on Wednesdays, we're working with Artistry out of Bloomington. They will bring in, again, 10 to 12 instructors, and the kids will explore all mediums of art, including theater and music and dance this summer. And then on Thursdays, all of these are nonprofit organizations as well. On Thursdays, Sports and Fitness in Sports, which is a nonprofit out of Innovative Office Solutions that we get some of our furniture through. Their son started this In Sports Foundation about 2 or 3 years ago. And they bring, again, 10 to 12 instructors in different sports fields, and then the kids are exposed to those sports. So that's kind of the afternoons. In addition to that, we'll have field trips. I only listed out a few. We're still working on those. But we'll go to the Carver County Library. We're going to go to Camp Minnewaska. We're going to go to the Olog Theater to see a play. And there will be other activities in the afternoons. We're still arranging some of the field trips for this program as well.
Do you feel that the school should be supporting the educational skills around piracy?
Sure. And then staffing. Sure. We have 18 full-time instructors for the Summer Explorers program. We have 8 part-time paraprofessionals. What I'm really happy to say is that of the 18 that are in Summer Explorers, only 2 are external staff this summer. Again, that helps to really build that strong bond between the traditional school year and summer, and especially the curriculum as well. Next, the 6th grade bridge program, that's 5th going into 6th. We spend a lot of time on getting ready for middle school. So all the front loading of academics for that first month so we can build success with the students so they feel like, man, I can do this and I can get into it and I know what I'm doing. So that's the 6th grade bridge program. The middle school program for 6 and 7, real focused on the academic skills of the students again, looking at their MAP scores, individualizing instruction, and then also giving them exposure to opportunities every Thursday. Similar to the middle school or the elementary program, there are various field trips and various folks coming in to share their expertise in different fields like sports or STEM or those activities. And then the 8th grade transition, we're doing that one again with a focus on physics and Algebra 1. And our principals have really done a great job of recruiting this year. I think we've sent out probably about 150 invitations. So I'm hoping from the 16 that we had last year, we're going to see a jump in students that might participate in this program this summer. And then our credit attainment is for students who need to recover a credit that they did not complete or didn't pass during the school year. And we can offer 1.0, a full year credit in the 2 sessions that we offer during the summer. And as the district moves more and more towards standards and away from credits, this area is really expanding. We probably had about 10 students last year that were working on standards attainment. So they came for either a 2-day shot to demonstrate that they knew the standard, or up to 3 weeks it might have taken them to complete it. This summer we know there's going to be an increase. We've been working with Chris Henschus and a few other people. We know there will be an increase in students who no longer fail, but they just need to make up some standards in summer school. Along with all of the work that we do in Gen Ed and inclusion with special ed students in our Gen Ed programs like the ALC, Laura also offers ESY during the summer for students on IEPs. So we included that in here as well. This summer, our goal probably is to see about 665 students participating this summer for a total with ESY of about 805 kids that we hope to support this summer. Food service will produce and prepare 18,600 meals for our summer school program. And then our funding comes from various sources, primarily from the ALC budgets, but in sports and Special Olympics and Carver Parks, all of those people are giving a lot of funding in expertise and people coming into our program that we don't have to encumber in our budgets. So that's really great. And then last but not least, it's like starting a school every summer. We have to have everybody working with us, the transportation, food, and nursing services, technology. All that is our summer school team to make it possible for summer to operate smoothly. Any other questions?
I know you said that there were pretty strict requirements for, or like a list of requirements of how people qualify for this program, but for kids who are kind of towing that line, I mean, do you have any kind of discretion? So before maybe it gets worse, I mean, do you have some discretion to let people into the program
Yes.
who, okay.
Yes. When parents call, sometimes we have situations where a parent may have one child enrolled and another child they feel needs it. We always ask them to talk to their teacher or talk to their principal.
Okay.
If they make the decision that this is an appropriate program, then yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
We'll enroll the student.
I guess maybe just a comment from me. This looks great. I think in the sense of, I know we had a lot of questions about measurables. I think that's because of the interest of, is this moving the ball? And I think the feeling you get from that is that it is. And to see the district and students take advantage of that, and more importantly, the community come together. I mean, your slide on there of the number of organizations that are involved and provide time to our learners to be able to give them this opportunity to try to help them academically, I think is impressive. So
Thanks.
I want to say thank you to what you guys are doing.
And I think, even though I work for community ed part of my life, that is really the partnership with community ed. They have the expertise of people in the community to bring in, and so we just harness that strength in community ed to come in and provide these services as well. So it's a nice partnership between traditional ed and community ed. So.
And one question too, just the funding, it seems like your budget is pretty much the same as it has been in the last year, and last year there's no significant it's like the same kind of programs, it's the same.
Yeah, we're really market-driven, as I say it. It's really based on the students that come into the program is the revenue we receive from the state. So we don't get a lump sum and saying, here, now do it. But if we have 5 kids, that's all the funding we're going to get. If we have 805, then we'll have the funding to support those students. So it varies from summer to summer. But the last 2 or 3 years, it's been pretty steady in the number of enrollees and the funding base. So every year we're kind of guessing at the budget, thinking we're going to make this, and we usually have. If we don't, then Dee Dee talks to us.
Funded of your funding that you get for it, what percentage is funded? I mean, there's a lot of it that comes from community ed funds too, right?
Some of it is through community ed, yes, but not, the larger part is the Area Learning Center legislation funding. Okay. Every student that meets these qualifications has an additional 0.2 funding behind them from the state. So that's the money that we garner during the summer or during the school year to do our school year programming or after school. So it doesn't hit the 1.0 funding that the district gets. We get an additional 0.2 to support those learners.
Are a lot of the students that end up coming to summer school, are they also involved in those during the year
yes.
programs as well?
Yes. Yep. It's a target population that we want to continue with and work with. Yep.
And just another comment, and just echoing what Jeff said, this is really exciting, and it's really, hopefully is going to help us close that achievement gap, and help us get it closed. I hope you learned a valuable lesson, which is don't pause for questions in the middle of a presentation.
All right, I did.
Yeah, but you handled it awesome.
They were great questions, though.
Yeah,
so.
We just get really excited about this stuff, and we're just happy that we have someone like you.
Nobody going, and hey, fine, sit down now, like Fred would do. Come on, Fred.
Yeah, but your passion for this and
poor Fred.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
But your passion for this, and we're just blessed to be in a community that does have all these community partnerships, and then
sure are.
And community ed has done such a great job with that. So can't wait to hear how it went.
Yeah.
I'm not as anxious as I was a couple minutes ago to pay you a compliment, but if anybody ever, and I don't know if they ever would, challenge and say, what are we spending this money for? And it's just summer school, and we know what summer school is like. Have them talk to people who were involved in the program before, when it was literally seat time. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. Yeah. We need to have you here, and that's what happens is absolutely immaterial. And the other, I'm paying you a compliment. The other thing that's amazing is you've sort of done the impossible. I thought after last year's presentation that the program couldn't get much better, but it sure as heck is. I mean, this is very impressive, and this is a service that I don't know, but I don't think all districts offer something as extensive as this. Do they?
No.
Not as extensive, no.
Well, that's credit to you and your staff, and bravo.
And the support from everybody within the district. I mean, it does take that whole group of people to gel together, food service, to come up with the best way we can fund those things, because they get funding, because we do meet the qualifications of 50% free and reduced lunch for summer. So that's why we can afford, or that's why we can get reimbursed for our summer school food program and offer it free to parents. So the students do meet that qualification of 50% free and reduced lunch students as well.
Are you going through the weeds? I know there's qualifications you have to be able to be in the program. Are you going through the weeds to find kids that we might be missing, that for one reason or another don't know, or they don't think they're qualified, or are we, lack of a better word, recruiting?
Fred, we do that through our teachers.
Okay. So
every building is asked about February to give us a list of students that they would really see benefit from the program. Those lists go then to the principal, and then those lists to us. So that's who's really determining the eligibility, is back at the school. We're not, because we don't know the kids. So the principals take a lot on themselves, and so do the teachers, to spend time with families during conferences to really build on their knowledge about the summer program so they feel confident in bringing their child there. So this summer, this spring, we did a save the date card. So at conferences, parents that we felt their children would be a good person for the summer program, they received a save the date card. So they knew back in February when conferences were, summer school's coming, this is what it's all about. Now when the registration comes through, I'll know about it, and then I'll register my child. So that was effective too, to have that at conferences. It gave the teachers something to talk from, rather than saying to parents, I think your son or daughter should go to summer school, and not give them anything. So that was helpful this summer.
Well,
that came from communications department.
What would you say is the biggest bias, the biggest bias you have from the community to not want to send their child to this program? Are they afraid? I mean, nervous about? I'm not sure what.
I think it's time commitment mostly.
Okay.
You know, and then if you get into the middle school age group, they want to be home and social with their friends, and then they think, so as we build a dynamic summer school, we're hoping that students will say, hey, that's a cool place to go. And we've done that well with our Achieve program after school in all 3 of our middle schools. The kids say, I'm going to Achieve today. Aren't you coming? Why aren't you coming? So they built a really good rapport with the kids and a relationship with the kids.
And Fred, just to follow up on your comments, I think if you look back at how we used to do summer school, it was kind of a wasted resource. And there were a lot of those comments about, why are we, spending this money? But when you really look at the research on how do we move the needle for kids and close that achievement gap, it really is about opportunities outside of school. And so, again, credit to Jeff and the staff and teaching and learning and the whole team around this, and really developing that program that is about learning and it's fun, right? And you get kids out into the community. And again, I've said this to a number of groups. Last year, as part of those activities, we had kids holding a fishing pole for the very first time in their lives.
Yeah.
And it made it sound like a little thing, but think about how many connections now they make to things that they read about, or things that, again, as they engage in conversations with their peers, what a difference that makes for them. So, again, I think we are moving in the right direction. And summertime is sometimes it's like, well, I don't, want my kid going to that. But I think we're going to get word of mouth that this is a great opportunity for kids, and it's a fun, they have fun and they learn, right?
I think it's more fun it'll be to read Tom Sawyer if you've held a fishing pole. Although from not knowing even what it is. How exciting.
Okay. Thanks.
Great discussion. Just to kind of wrap it up, I think, there's obviously a ton of interest here, and I think as I consider this program, what you're doing, it's probably the single most important thing we can do towards the achievement gap. You're reaching out to almost 8% of our student population. 8%. Now, we're not getting them all, which is another point. And I think it would be wonderful to have data to understand how to measure how effective these programs are. But I think we're all up here sitting here, intuitively, how can this not be effective, right? So, they're learning, they're engaged, and it would be, wonderful to kind of see what that data is, and hopefully the kids can see the data too. Like, look at how well you've done, right? So I think it's amazing. I think there's so much interest, and it's not because you're pausing for questions, and it's not because we have a light agenda. I think this is truly an important topic, right? I mean, even if we had a full agenda, I think this is something that's really important for our district. I mean, I remember Clint, saying last year when we interviewed him, when we talked about the achievement gap, the first thing that came out of his mouth was summer school. So I take that to heart, and intuitively it makes a ton of sense.
Yes.
And, so we are all engaged. We would, want to be supportive. I would encourage on that participation side, figure out what we can do to get, it sounds like we're there's like 250 kids that aren't, that aren't taking advantage of this program that we'd like to. Whatever, maybe that's more. Let's get them as many as we can into this. So let's fill this program as big as it can be, get the engagement and the results. I mean, because really, everyone looks at the test scores at the end of the day, and I tell you what, these scores are as, if not more important than the higher TV scores when it comes to our complete results. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to, capture ground, and it's the resources are there, and I think if you need more resources, if we got to get more buses, if we got to do whatever, bang for our buck in terms of investment in the performance of this district, I'd be hard pressed to see where we could probably get a better return.
Amen. Yep. Well said.
So.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the support too.
Thanks for all your work.
Thanks
You
for
bet.
everything.
Have a great summer.
You too. Visit us this summer.
I am going to.
Yes.
I am going to be there. I want to be there for Archery Day.
Okay, fine.
Or maybe I'll come to the pirate field trip because I want to see. All right. Okay. Moving on. Construction update. Dee Dee, we hopefully have some good show and tell.
A little bit. So I'll start out talking about Carver Elementary. As you know, we're pretty well through everything except the outdoor activities that might be going on. We're soon be placing a couple of basketball hoops out there now that hopefully the ground is thawed out. Also working on some roller shades in the cafeteria. I believe those will be installed or have been installed. And I can't remember if I mentioned this before. We had one exterior signage that was on the building. I don't know if you recall. We had two that said Carver Elementary School facing Ironwood Drive. And so we're moving one of those to be on County Road 11 so that we can see it from Jonathan Carver Parkway. So we're getting those moved, and it'll make it. Yeah, you're welcome. On to the athletic center. Still working on the retention pond and making sure that that's working. We've had a meeting this past couple weeks ago related to that, and they'll continue to work on that and what the remediation is to make sure that that pond holds the water. In addition, if you haven't driven by, the fabric cover has been deflated. That took place today. Last week or two, they've been removing the netting inside, the lights inside. I think I have a picture here for you. Probably doesn't look too dramatic to you, but for those of us that have been in there, all the nets, the cables that have been interior, all the lights have come down. Last Friday, I believe all the fire safety mechanisms had been removed, and then they brought the dome cover down today. And then just wanted to kind of kudos to our buildings and grounds staff. So this is in the storage shed on the north side. They constructed some, you can kind of see it here, some mechanisms to allow them to hang all the lights in there so that they'll be protected. And that worked out very well. They're up high enough so that when they come in with the dome fabric covers, that they can get those through without running into any of the lights. I think in the back here, if you can kind of see that those are boxes that were constructed to hold all of the cables. So the exterior cables and all of that will be stored. We built some pallets to put the fabric cover on. It gets kind of folded up like a burrito, if you will, and gets stored in there. So things are moving along in that manner. We did get some communications from people through Facebook, and Brett and his department fielded some of those questions about, why would the athletic center fabric be coming down now? Wouldn't you leave it up longer? And, with the snow and all of that, I can understand that. But just for your information, that has to be scheduled out, and it's scheduled based, on demand throughout not only Minnesota but in this region. So Mick has taken it upon himself to get that scheduled for next year. So we have some dates scheduled, which include then a rain date, because they cannot take down the fabric cover during when it's wet. They don't want to put it wet when there's moisture on it. Excuse me. So looking at that time frame about early November, and then taking it back down again early May. So we're on the schedule for that for next year. Related to that's all about the athletic center. On the pool, some of you were able to join us to see the pool and see the changes that have been made. It's been, almost a month since we've seen that and how much changes have occurred. But the scoreboard is mounted. I do have a picture that might be a little more beneficial to see. Well, this is the bleachers. This is looking from the side. So the closest area in towards me, if you will, or towards this side of the screen, that's that bigger area where we will be able to do some education when it comes to the middle school. Also, it'll be a great area for students to line up prior to going out for a meet. It's a lot of wood on there yet, but you can see the deck floor has been put in place. The grouting I believe, is all completed. I think if we go back and look at this today, which I was gone for a little bit, so I didn't get out to get any pictures.
There's
These were
water
taken.
in there now, right?
There is water in there. Yep. So the water is both in the lap pool as well as the diving well. The water that's placed in there that then helps cure the cement that's in there. So, that's been in there for a little while. They're working on the chemicals that are in there and testing and balancing all of that. It won't be ready for swimming for a while. The grout work, as I mentioned. They're doing some painting on some of the sound panels so that the paint will match colors that they have coordinated in there. As you know, if you saw the record boards, let me see if I got two of the same pictures up here. This is the lane pool where they dive in, but you can see the logos are up, the scoreboard is up, and then we'll be having some banners up here because right now the scoreboard looks a little lonely, but that will change. I didn't get the picture I wanted. Looks like I got two of the same pictures here, but we from Brett's staff, they took a really nice picture that kind of did a wide angle. So let me just see real quick if I can find that picture, and if not, we'll just have to move on here.
Somebody posted a video of when it was water in there on Twitter. I don't know if it was John Summer or...
Oh, I don't know. This is the one I wanted to show, kind of a wide angle from up above. So Nicole took that from Brett's department. And so the record board is up here. This is the lap pool. Of course, this is where the starting blocks will go. On this end, there's... like compartments where the lane markers, that'll go in, they'll be able to be stored inside of that. We'll also have the West Express had showed some interest that they wanted some lane markers in this area too to use in the pool, or the diving well, so that they could use that for warm-ups while competition's going on here. Certainly you couldn't dive at that same time. Diving boards will go over here, but as you can see, both the men's and the women's record boards are up there. They moved those from the middle school east pool. So things progressing along there and going very well. I'm understanding that for sure within the next month we'll have the whole pool will be turned over to us, and all of those permits and all of that will be ready to go. And we do have West Express very excited to be in there. So we'll be looking at some sort of an open house coming up, and we've been working with Brett's departments to be able to make that happen. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Dee Dee. Any questions on the construction update? All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Amy, elementary assessment.
this up. Well, good evening. As you can see, I have Chris Commerce with me tonight. We've been talking about elementary assessment, assessments that happen at the beginning of the year, and talking about how could we do these more effectively, how could we maybe shift our practices at the beginning of the year to really front load our teachers with a lot of information so that we really can maximize the school year. And while elementary principals have been having many conversations around this, along with teaching and learning, we've also been having conversations about this as a part of the Turn Committee. And Chris Commerce chairs that committee, so tonight he certainly will be able to help answer questions or also address teachers' perspective on this and the value of this type of opportunity. And when we talk about beginning of the year assessments, we talk about setting aside some time that would typically be school days, those first couple days of school, much like we have for kindergarten over many years, to afford parents and their child an opportunity to come into school and to allow the teacher to gather some information. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that and share what we're thinking about how we might move forward with this. So the purpose really is to provide time for meaningful individual assessments in the core areas of reading and math at the elementary level prior to the start of the academic school year, where all 20 to 30 students come to school. This allows the teacher to have baseline information, allows them to start planning for instruction right at the beginning of the year, that allows them to implement things like small group instruction. You know, as we've talked about balanced literacy, we talk about some time where we're meeting kids at their level. This really allows us to maximize that. It also obviously supports our work around personalized learning. Typically, what happens beyond kindergarten is teachers have a variety of benchmark assessments that they're completing in reading and math. Again, they're doing things like running records, they're identifying student strengths, they're identifying opportunities for growth, and they're doing this simultaneous to acquainting a group of 20 to 30 children with classroom routines, finding meaningful activities that don't just keep kids busy, but keep them engaged in meaningful learning, and they're pulling kids one at a time over the first 4 to 6 weeks of school. And then by mid-October, they're usually rolling into being able to start to really personalize, provide more of that targeted instruction with exactly what kids need. So this really is meant to address that time lapse that happens at the beginning of the year. So when we talk about benefits to learning, obviously this supports personalized learning. It allows, beyond that, back to school night where all the kids come in with their parents. They're so excited. They see the classroom. They meet the teacher. This affords that meaningful conversation. They start to establish a relationship. Again, they learn about what are the students' strengths, what are their opportunities for growth. They also get the information they need to plan their core reading and math instruction. Again, it really allows teachers to maximize student learning time since those one-on-one assessments are completed right at the onset rather than over the course of the 4 to 6 weeks. It also creates that welcoming environment. Parents have an opportunity to ask questions. A lot of times parents have some really important information that they'd like to share with the teacher, but they wait for the first conference. This really invites that opportunity for teachers to start the year knowing as much as they possibly can about each one of their learners. And this really is supported, like I mentioned, by both teachers and has been the work of the Turn Committee. And I don't know if you want to comment. I know you've certainly been having conversations with teachers as we've been working on this as far as some of the benefits, or if I hit them all.
Right. Well, when you're all done with your presentation, I'll
You
answer
want to
all
jump
the
in?
questions.
Okay, perfect. That's fantastic. So
I like the delegation of duties.
that was great. I just didn't want to, we talk about the Turn Committee. I'm talking about the benefits.
No, I appreciate that. I think it does fit in here
It's really mutually beneficial. It benefits kids. It also benefits teachers. As we talk about the implementation plan, we would like to do a 2-year rollout. Currently, this year's kindergartners experience this at the beginning of the year. Next year's incoming kindergartners expect this to be a part of the practice. We are moving from 1 to 2 days, but they're anticipating that their child won't start regular school days until into that first week. And then we would like to take advantage of the calendar process and the school year to plan to expand it to 2nd through 5th grade. We also know that we'll learn some things doing it with 2 grades. Ideally, we're looking for each individual meeting to be 30 to 40 minutes, affording the teachers enough time to really complete their one-on-one assessments, while parents maybe complete some paperwork, and then having an opportunity to interact with the learner and the parent as well. And elementary teachers, along with their leadership teams at the buildings, will help finalize what are the things we want to make sure every teacher does, and what are the things that teachers have options around as they look at that. So as we look at that, we're really looking at a 2-year rollout and really a trial period. We, of course, are going to be interested in, did it add the value we expected? What is the feedback that we got from parents, and what are the supports needed to continue to move forward? As we look at the impact on requirements, as you know, with compulsory education, we're required to have kids in school for so many hours of instruction each school year. At the elementary, it's a minimum of 165 days, and then we also have hours. And kindergarten must have 850 hours. 1st through 6th grade, really, is 935, but we're proposing this only at the elementary at this point. And when we talk about these hours, we do take out the 30 minutes that are afforded for kids' lunch and recess time. So it really is their instruction time. Currently, kindergartners come 2 less days than other elementary students. They don't start school until the Wednesday after Labor Day. And we have a day called Sneak a Peek that happens in early May, where we invite next year's kindergartners into the classroom, and our current kindergartners do not attend. Currently, that affords our kids 1,026 hours of learning time, which far exceeds that 850-hour requirement. In 1st grade, we currently have 173 days, 1,038 hours, again, well exceeding the 935 hours required by state statute. Our proposed would be, if we leave Sneak a Peek the way it is, and we're having some conversation about what is the best way to bring in those kindergartners, to introduce them to the school and the school program, then we would see our kindergartners go down to 170 days and 1,020 hours, and our 1st graders would move to 171 days and 1,026 hours. So it's really, again, maximizing that time by front-loading our teachers with information about their learners and compacting the time that was happening over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. As far as communication, obviously, as we move forward with this, after sharing with you tonight, we'll be confirming for our elementary staff what the plan is. This year, very specifically targeting our kindergarten and 1st grade teachers, but also communicating with our 2nd through 5th grade teachers to let them know, or to confirm for them, that we are intending to roll forward the next year to include them. And then just making sure that we have common messages about our purpose, our goals, and the value that we see in this. And then with families, we'll of course have direct messaging to our kindergarten and our 1st grade families. Our incoming kindergartners will be at Sneak a Peek, I believe, on May 3rd, that first Thursday in May. And so that will be part of their messaging there. We'll do a direct message, both phone, text type message to our current kindergartners, especially as we move forward with the sign up for those conferences. Additionally, we'll include information in our school and district newsletters, the e-print. It'll be a part of our website. We'll do a special article so it comes up on the homepage as well as building pages. We send kindergartners, or are planning to send kindergartners, important reminders in early August that reminds them how they find their bus information and those types of things. This will be included there. We also do welcome back letters from grade level teachers, so first grade will be reminded in those as well. And then, of course, we'll update the calendar online to reflect those K-1 assessment days this current year, and again, then plan to build that into our ongoing calendar as we come together with the calendar committee to approve the next 2 years. So that is our plan to move forward with elementary assessments. Comments? Yeah, absolutely.
I was kind of joking with the questions thing. I'd love to try to field one or two. But I just want to underline everything that Amy said. This really is part of, this was really our second year of conversations with what we call the Turn Committee. And the other, we do our subtitle is the Teacher's Day. And we do a lot more than talk about the Teacher's Day, but we really are trying to think about collaboratively, how do we create the best conditions for student success? And one element of that is creating the conditions for teacher success. So as you aptly laid this out, if you can, I can't imagine, I'm a high school teacher, but working with kindergartners and first graders, and trying to do a one-on-one assessment with the rest of the class there seems like a Herculean task for me. And then this idea that under our current and past structures, that really would take 5 to 6 weeks to do this work. So it seems like a really smart step forward. And that's really what the Turn Committee, that stands for Teacher Union Reform Network. And Jim Bauk last year sent a bunch of us down to Chicago, and we spent 3 days really with this Turn Network. And we're continuing that work, and I think that the overall goal, and there's a lot of research behind all of this, is that we really can do incredible things when we increase collaboration. And so this is really, I think we'd all agree, an extremely important step with giving the teachers these 2 days. But this is a small step when we look at all of the structures that we have and all of the challenges that we've got in going from a 20th century set of structures and shifting into personalized learning. So there really are a lot of things that we are thinking and talking about with regards to increasing the conditions for success.
So, questions?
I have just one in terms of timing in establishing the baseline. Is there any evidence or any studies that show that you might get a more accurate measurement of the baseline if you didn't do it coming right off summer vacation? But would maybe to wait 2 weeks, make up a number, and still have the 2 days of release and et cetera, but let them get into the rigor of what it's like to be back in school again, so they might take it more seriously. Their little brains will be operating and functioning in that mode instead of going out and playing. Has there been any thought to that? Are there any studies that indicate that it might make a difference to do that?
That is a great question. I don't know what the research would say as far as wait or don't. I know school districts have done a variety of things. NWEA testing is testing that will still happen after the kids are in school. And typically, I think we afford kids to be back 1 to 2 weeks before we start those. Is that accurate? Yeah. And so that type of assessment, that routine piece is beneficial. But as we look at, gathering information, reading with a student one-on-one, you're learning a lot. So if their level's a little bit below, but they warm up as you go, teachers are reading with kids. We're doing things like running records. We're doing benchmark assessments. Those typically we are, ideally wanting that information within those first couple weeks, because we're starting groups, and we move kids around because we're flexibly meeting their needs as we personalize. Clint, I don't know if you're more aware of any studies regarding that. I am not, and certainly.
I think it's a good question. Again, I think the focus is on how do we make sure we're hitting the ground running as soon as possible in terms of getting to know the students. And then collectively, as you look at your class, where you need to begin. So we're not using those 2 weeks as, again, there's being in the classroom a long time ago, but you really weren't hitting full stride until the end of first quarter. This is, again, we're talking decades ago when I was in the classroom. But so really the intent of this is how do we get to know them as quickly as possible, get some of that assessment done right away, have an opportunity to really dialogue with parents, and then, get them in and get them moving right away.
I just don't want that to be the overriding factor, getting them in and getting them going. I would like to see them evaluated at the optimum time, so we get a true picture of where they are instead of, my personal bias is it seems to me you'd get a more accurate picture if they had been in school establishing that discipline again for a little while, and then they're still worthwhile things. It wouldn't be 2 weeks of doing nothing. You could still be teaching, but you wouldn't necessarily know exactly where your kids are. But you might, it seems like you'd get a better picture, but maybe that's just, there's no data to support it.
Is the relevant distinction, though, that this is more just where you get started? I'm presuming there's course corrections, right?
And there's a lot
So
of
if they're a month down the road and all of a sudden they're just flying, right, you're not going to hold them into whatever. You're going to, because I know I've seen my kids move up and down, and they're just like out of the blue. I'm, moving up in math or down in, LA or something like that, right?
Yep, it's meant to be that baseline as a jumping off point. But to your point, Fred, as we, do this first trial with K1, we're going to learn some things. As we expand it, we're going to learn some things. And if we find out that there's a better time, then we'll be proposing moving it in the calendar. But I think right now the idea was to have that baseline information, that starting off point, to be purposeful and intentional right away at the beginning of the year. And really, again, we have our kids for 165-day minimum, so we're at 170 and 171 and about 1,000 hours. We want to use all of them as best we can to meet their needs. And we are continuously gathering information. Much of it at the elementary is anecdotal. It might be from doing a large group slate activity in math and checking in on kids and figuring out what kids need, or that, I have 4 kids that need more of a challenge. Or sitting with a small group of students reading and going, I have 2 I really need to pull aside and do another running record. I don't think I got an accurate picture. What I'll be most interested in is, do our teachers report they felt like they had a large number of kids that they didn't have a good picture of? Yeah. And we do have a commitment among the elementary principals and the team that'll be working on those assessments to really come back together to reflect on what did we learn and how can we make this better as we expand it, rather than just do it the same because, no major problems. So
you both make good points. Tim, you make the good point of your child is gonna progress or go one way direction no matter what you establish.
I'd be very concerned about what you said if we were like sliding them and not revisiting it again, right? Because then that's. But if I'm assuming we're course correcting. It's just kind of like how do we quick get started, rather than kind of, taking 6 weeks. We're going to do it
as long as there's no labeling, obviously, and there's not going to.
And a lot of our practices at the elementary, both with balanced literacy and as we've moved toward inquiry-based math, is about flexibly grouping small groups of children for a short period of time. So it's by student, by standard, by a specific need, working with them. And then some kids need more support, other kids, they got it, and they launch off with another group of kids. So it is very flexible.
Thank you. I feel much better about it now.
Good.
The personalized learning, sort of makes it, it's the personalized learning is everything's so fungible anyway, right? That things are always moderated, and the child is just allowed to move at a much more quick pace if they're able to.
And with personalized learning, we're obviously super excited just about the opportunity for the teacher to have some concentrated time with a learner at the beginning of the year, one-on-one, getting to know them, so establishing that relationship, as well as learning about them, their likes, their dislikes, insights from their families, And again, often that doesn't happen until first conferences, so you're 6 weeks in. So really, looks like it would be an advantage. We'll be back to let you know if it's the advantage we think. Josie?
Yes, I have some questions. So currently, right now, your time slot for evaluation for kindergarten, you had mentioned the time slot being like 20 to 30 minutes, but in reality, I think is it like 15? Or?
Right now, they have 1 day. Our goal is to have 30 to 40 minutes now by expanding to 2 days, so that teachers really can complete all the assessments they need to, not just, well, we got 1 done, but I still have 3 more I need to fit in during the day with kids.
So your goal is to be 20 to 30 minutes per evaluation?
I think they'll be between 30 and 40.
30 to 40, because then that would make sense.
Right,
to
for
have it
2 days, if you have
If you do
22.
24 kids, if you do 20 minutes in 1 day.
Right.
And then that's just 6 days, 6 other kids left. Okay, so you're trying, and that's a big jump from what kindergarten we currently do now, right? Because it's like 15 minutes. I mean,
Right.
I'm a kindergartner currently, so it was like a 4-hour time slot we were given to sign up, and it was a really less than 15-minute snapshot of.
Yep, and that's what we're
Right,
trying to expand, is to have better quality information or deeper quality.
Yeah, because.
It would be hard to do that assessment and have the conversation with the parent in a 15 to 20 minute window. We know we have to.
And that's what they currently do though, right?
Right, it is.
And
So
it
they're
was
not
like, it's like a
trying
4-hour window though that we were able to even sign up for. It's not even that they give you a full day to sign up. So they must be covering it, being that it has the lower times and that their half day is a teacher day to kind of assess that, right?
Well, you all, to your question, you all know that in public education across North America, we do the impossible. You know, it is a factory model. And I think that the wonderful thing about this idea is, how are we changing that? How do we make it more humane, to your point?
Personal.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just doing the numbers and trying to.
Yep.
And I love the idea. I think it's great. Certainly giving our teachers as many tools as possible to be effective in the classroom, I think is great. I think my questions go around access. So as we look at, especially our families that maybe lower income, maybe they have a working parents, how do we ensure, is this only going to be happening during the day? Are there going to be time slots in the evenings? Is there transportation options, some of those type of things? How have you kind of worked through some of those things in terms of making sure that we get all of the students to be able to participate?
Those are several of the factors that we are still working on, is finalizing those windows of time, as well as looking at what other needs might we want to consider. Also, you know, beginning to have conversations about what would that mean for club care? What does that mean? You know, what opportunities do we have to provide support? It's a smaller scale when it's only 2 grade levels. As we expand it, and it's the entire elementary, we have more flexible options, but very aware of that, as well as aware of the fact that, you know, whether you have a late registration or a student who couldn't get there, that teachers still may have a handful of kids that they're going to need to assess in that first week of school. Not ideal, but it will be interesting for us to see, you know, what barriers did we not address and how could we better address them. So still working on those things. Transportation is not one that we've talked as much about, so that's a great point for us to dig deeper into.
Potentially interpreters that would
Yeah.
be available
Yeah.
if parents are coming in to help out.
Just like we do for conferences, we would work with that. Correct.
Amy, on the side of, as you look at this and think about some of the special situations with like looping, how would that assessment change for a teacher or a looped class?
Yep. When a teacher has a student in the second year, obviously they're going to have the advantage of the connection with the parent and the student, but still the value of reconnecting, because the last formal time they probably met with that parent was winter or spring conferences. So will the teacher have more jumping off information? Absolutely. But regardless of whether a teacher loops or whether it's their first year with a student, we are always doing those assessments. You know, you may have a student that came to summer school and they made a big jump. Well, we don't want to start them where they left off in the spring. We want to start them where they are in the fall. And if they did have that summer slide, I think a little bit to your point, Fred, we want to recoup that as quickly as possible and get them into a challenging instructional level. So they're going to come in with more information. I would say they have a little bit of an advantage in that second year, but I don't think it changes the need because the information that we're gathering, we want that new information each fall. And they might be confirming some things, you know, like, oh, I think that's where they're at, and maybe learning some new things about how the summer went.
The advantage, too, is especially with the parents in that conversation, is it really can then become more of a goal-setting conversation, you know, based on where we were last year, here's the assessment, and here's some things that, you know, as we talk about what we want to accomplish with that student.
I think communication around that might be important, because I think you may have that population saying, look, my teacher already knows my student. So I think on the communication side, that might be a point to kind of hit and reinforce that value and why it's still value. I mean, to the point that you guys both said, which are great points.
Okay, that's a great point, too. Other thoughts or questions?
I do know that there is another district that does this, and it's been very successful. I mean, those teachers feel like they really understand and know those kids, and it just kind of gives them a leg up. So I'm really excited to see that we're doing this. You know, you're probably aware that there is potential legislation around testing all of our students on dyslexia prior to starting school, which, as a parent of a dyslexic, it really would have been great to know that starting kindergarten versus finding out in the middle of first grade. But with that, then would we need to expand? Because that's just another assessment that needs to be done.
Right now, some of the screeners that we're doing are meant to address or provide that early identification more heavily in K2, and the legislation expands that. So we definitely will have to look at that and look at the time allotment. Right now, there's a fair amount of overlap with kindergarten and first grade in the assessments that we're currently using. And so I think we feel pretty good about that 30 to 40 minute time. If, depending on how it comes through the legislature and whether it will require us to change assessments or do something different than what's currently in our Read Well by third grade plan, then we may need to make some adjustments. But I would guess that that will be for the fall of 19, not necessarily the fall of 18, so we'll have a little bit of time to...
You mean the fall of 20?
Did I say that wrong? We wouldn't do it this fall, it'd be a year from now. So instead of for the 18-19 school year, the 19-20 school year.
Got it.
So, yeah. So that would be my guess when it would go into effect. And we're kind of watching to see how prescriptive and how much it changes, what's already required through our Read Well by third grade plan. So that's a great point, though, too.
But I mean, I'm really excited about this. I mean, and again, it feeds right into our personalized learning.
Absolutely.
I mean, the more we know about our kids, the more our teachers can know about that, arm them with that information, we can hit the ground running and start personalizing their education right from the first day. And so it's really exciting.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? One small question, a couple related. When children or students take the MCAs or the MAPs, is that considered instruction time or not?
Technically, it counts as a part of an instructional day. However, when we adjust the schedule like we have at the high school, as I talked with David Brecht about the impact of this, it does sound like it counts differently if we don't bring all kids in, that it counts as a non-instructional day. But if you bring in third graders and they spend an hour on reading on Monday and an hour on reading on Tuesday, it counts as instruction time because it's informing instruction.
Okay, so
just like these assessment days won't count as instructional days.
Because they're only going to be there's not going to be other activities for the kids. They're just coming in for their time slot.
Correct.
That's why it's not an instructional day.
Yeah. It does definitely inform instruction. It goes hand in hand, and we need the information to do a great job with instruction.
But because it's one-on-one individual, it doesn't get the broader credit. That was
correct.
I was just curious. It seems pretty important to instruction.
Yeah. It is very important to instruction. It's kind of counterintuitive.
Yes. Well, great. I want to echo, I think this is, I'm glad that, we're looking at it from both the instructor and the student, and I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, so looking forward to hearing how well it goes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now into 6.0, communication information. So first, communication from the school board. So we'll switch it up. We'll start from the right. Josie, do you have anything tonight?
Well, we attended the Teacher of the Year Awards last night at the banquet. That was very nice. Congratulations to Anna Edlund for winning and all the nominees. And that was very nice to honor our teachers. So
Yeah.
it's a very good event.
Great. Thanks for being there. Fred?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I have no report.
I'll just fill in a little more information about the Teacher of the Year dinner. We had 28 teachers nominated this year, which is more than double, I think, what we typically see. The 5 finalists, which we did never talk about because we haven't had a communication section since then. Dave Carlson from Chanhassen High School, Anna Edlund from Bluff Creek, Janet Holler from Chanhassen Elementary, Becky Janes from Victoria Elementary, and Mary Schoen from Jonathan. As Josie just said, Anna Edlund was the winner. And then for the actual dinner, we had 145 people there, where typically we top out at about 100. So it's great to see the district foundation getting so much more support, and I hope that continues to grow as the years go by. So that's what I have.
And Amy, that application, I mean, it's an extensive application too, right? I mean, it's not, the increase in that signifies.
Oh, it is, yeah,
the
because
effort
you need to have a principal or a dean, and you need to have someone, nominate in the first place. Then you have letters of support, and it helps to have teachers and parents and students, because all of those different viewpoints really help round out the person to be able to decide who is the the best final candidate. So yeah, it is a process that takes a while, but it's very worth it in the end.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Clint and David Brecht. I was at Southwest Metro meeting last week, and the Buffalo superintendent was in attendance. They always rotate the superintendents for that particular meeting. And he talked to the entire group about and thanked Eastern Carver County, and specifically Clint and David, for our work on security, and specifically some of our new protocols that we've done training with our students. They are, like a lot of districts, kind of at the starting point of having conversations about their security and how they train their students in the event of an emergency within their schools. And so they reached out, Clint and David kind of walked through some of our new training that we've done, and they've kind of accepted some of those things and are going to be doing work with their staff. So another testament, I think, to the great work that we're doing here at Eastern Carver, and appreciate the leadership of Clint and David both. So thank you.
All right. So I have a little longer report. Sorry about that. I was able to attend my first site council meeting at Carver Elementary, and so they're up and running, and really talked about some of the plans, what they've been able to accomplish and what they haven't, and some of the things they just, I think, wisely put off, just because, it's been a busy year, but they've had a really, really good year. So I wanted to share that. And also Clint and I, along with Brenda Vogt and Brian Beersford, were presenting at the National School Board Association Conference in San Antonio. And first year I'd ever gone. I mean, I've been a board member for 8 years, so first year I've ever gone. And I was reluctant, but Clint made me go. Actually, a few months back, I said, you know what, we should present at the National School Board Association Conference. Do that, Clint. And he's like, yeah, we got in. We'll go. That's excellent. You would have just been really proud of our district. We had a really nice group attend, but our superintendent and our directors of personalized learning were just really impressive. And when you see them all the time, but, and you kind of step back, and our story is really solid. And I was just really proud to be a board member that day. And other people from Minnesota School Board Association were attending that and asked us to present at the summer seminar in August. So that was quite an honor, because that's an invitation-only kind of event. So we'll be doing that again. And then while I was at the conference, I took advantage. And what was exciting is there were 7,000 board members there from all around the country. And just to realize that the work that we do is done in multiple locations all over the country is really kind of humbling. Just to know that, other people are struggling with the same issues that they're struggling with, and working on student achievement and developing the teachers and keeping their schools safe and advocating. And I went to a lot of sessions on advocating. We're in a unique situation in this country where we have a Secretary of Education who has no experience in public education. And her viewpoint on what is school choice is an interesting viewpoint. And so one of the things that I will start to do, and I'm hoping that we can start to do as a district, is talk about the choices that we offer in public education. I mean, if you just look at the amount of options we have in our high school, we have 3 high schools and we have different programs, and the different programs we have for special ed. And just every school has a little bit of a different flavor. We have a lot of choice in public education in this district and all over the country. And so it was just, it really made me realize that it's time for us to step up as educators, as board members, we are educators, and really advocate for public education. So it was a really good experience. And thank you, Clint, for listening. I didn't think, and for applying and doing all of the legwork, and I just kind of showed up. And it was great for me because, as a board member, I don't have expertise. I just introduced the guys. And they went, and it was a good experience. So, and then I'll let you talk. The only other thing is AMSD. We attended that a couple weeks ago, and again, to your point on safety, there was a speaker on safety, and I had the same experience I had at an MSBA event where almost every single item that they talked about that we should do, we've already implemented. So that was really kind of echoes that piece of it. So that's it. There's other events that have been covered, and I'll let Tim. I'll let you cover those.
Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, it's a busy time. It's as we're all going to be a number of activities here, but our loyal listener and viewing audience, I won't bore them too much, but I do want to say the Teacher of the Year was a delight last night. A great job, Amy, by everyone. It was just really heartening to see such an outpouring of support for a noble and appreciated, but not, I think, sufficiently appreciated, role in our community. So it was. I think everyone would have been proud to see. Again, everyone was all the nominees were winners, and that's just to hear their stories. I thought it's nice to hear I thought the in general they all did a very nice job. The mayors and you, of course, with giving us a little insight into what goes on behind these, what motivates these teachers. We had a community leaders meeting last week. We got a nice update about what's going on in Victoria. In a nutshell, they're adding more and more homes, more and more kiddos and learners, and so we're going to continue to have growth in the western edge of our district, and also more on the eastern side as the Prince property sounds like it's getting close to some resolution with the development of that. And what did they say? 200
homes.
Yeah, 200 homes.
Something like that.
So that's going to be another 350 plus children at some point. So that's great news for Chan Elementary and Bluff Creek, and so nice update there, and always good to see. We have the blessing and sometimes the challenge of having those diverse diverse cities and towns, to work with. And I think it's great that, the school district has taken the leadership to bring these groups together. And they, they need to communicate and work together, but I think we give them a purpose and a reason to do that. And it's always, I think, I come away, with a nice sense of a positive feeling of the community that we're helping to foster and breed amongst those leaders. So, and then we had I was at the Channis and Boosters event on last Friday, the equivalent to the barbecue bash or the barbecue luau this year. I've been to the barbecue bash a number of times. I had not been to this one before, and Cullen is, he did a very nice job. I know he's new in that role, and it's a newer community. And you go to the Chaska one, and you have these people that have just been in this community. You can sense the rich tradition that's represented there, and Chan doesn't have that, and they're building that. And it was still neat to see, the small but dedicated group there to support that community. So looking forward to the Chaska one coming up, and just a reminder, just everyone, please make sure. I think Josie mentioned it before, but we've got a number of activities. So just check your calendars and see what events you can make as we bring the year to another strong close. So with that, we'll turn it over to 6.2, communication from superintendent.
Okay, you've talked about a number of the items with community leaders and teacher of the year, and just we're into that season as the end of the year is so rapidly approaching. But I want to take just a few minutes, a couple quick minutes to talk about NSBA and the conference. And Lisa did a nice job kind of giving the overview too. But our presentation, we had about 50 people attend. I think it would have been a higher amount, but we were before the keynote speaker. There was a session early in the morning. So a number of people just didn't go to any of those, that first session. But what I can say though is people continued to come in, and once they came in, they didn't leave, right? And so that tells you about how they felt about it. And I will say, from what we've received back, we had 7 people evaluate our session, and all 7 gave us 5 out of 5 stars.
Woohoo!
Apparently it was good in their eyes as well. So I think we got some great feedback from the Q&A and the people who were there. The challenge, I think, is presenting it as a journey and not a recipe. And too often people want to say, give me your plan, and then we're going to go implement that. And so we have to be very clear as we're presenting. This is what it meant to us. This is how we got here, and it's not going to work that way necessarily everywhere else. And again, looking from the buy-in of our teachers and how it's grown there, and through our administration, through you as a board, through our parents and the community, I think it's a really unique situation here that, as that has developed over time. We're talking 8 years that we've been at this process. And so to think that a district's going to come in and just, do it overnight it's just not going to happen. So, again, I thought that went really well. So I'll just try to summarize the rest of the conference. We had 2 keynote speakers that we attended. One was Terry Bradshaw, and that was about what you would expect from Terry Bradshaw. It was random and rambling, and he was sweating, and he continued to gain speed as he went along. So that was interesting. Ann Compton was the other keynote, and she was a correspondent with ABC News for about 40 years, covered the White House for a long time, and just really brought a unique, I think, perspective to our kind of current media and political climate, and just had some really great stories to tell. She was the only reporter that was with George Bush in Air Force One after 9/11. And so, again, her perspective on all of those things was just really unique. So it was interesting to listen to her. A number of sessions, and I've got the book, and actually my feedback to NSBA is it's kind of overwhelming as you look at the book. The app's a little bit easier to use if you can use the app, because there's all kinds of sessions. And so it's really, the nice thing is, as you get into sessions, you know pretty quickly whether it's, something that's going to hold your interest. And if you walk out of that one, there's about 6 others right around you that you can pop into. So again, for me, it's just some really good things on community engagement. There was some legal updates, education reform, stuff with ESSA, board and superintendent relationships.
You attended all of those.
Yes, these are just different sessions that were out there, but some just really good information. And again, it's always validating to go out there and hear what other people are doing, and as you see your perspective on the work that you're doing. And again, it continues to show that that we're leading the way in many ways. So the last thing I'll just say, as we kind of talk about next steps, Lisa mentioned we'll be presenting for MSBA. We had a couple of reps there that really enjoyed the presentation and really want us to present it here to more of our members around the state, which we'll do this summer. And then also just in conversation with Lisa too, as we were talking, engaging with other board members and other administrators from across the country, there's a number of states that actually require board members to do so many hours of professional development every year. And so it got me thinking, and I think this will be a part of our conversations. We talk about goal setting and in the board retreat moving forward, and not necessarily that obviously there's not a state requirement, but how do I support you as a board with professional development? We do it for our principals, for our teachers, for our staff, but it's also important for you. And it doesn't have to necessarily mean attending sessions, but as we do the instructional rounds pieces, I think there's different ways that if you attend part of the personalized learning summit in the summer. So, what are some ways we can, as a team, set some goals on professional development for you as a board? So again, I think those conversations will come up, but it was a good kind of jump started my thinking around that a little bit. So,
as far as personalized learning is concerned around the nation, did you get a sense? Are there a lot of districts as far as we are?
No.
No.
And again, I think the more you get out and about, what you'll see is it's happening at a building, or it's happening at it might be a choice school, or it's happening with a grade level, but to do it across an entire district, multiple sites, multiple schools, multiple leadership teams, that's really the challenge, right? Is bringing this to scale, and that's kind of the journey we've been on. So most people haven't moved that far down the road yet.
And a big piece of it is getting the board on board. I mean, we've really supported this as a board, and seen the journey, and we've taken baby steps and kind of progress things along, but not all boards are all that cohesive, and are battling other things as well.
Because most boards are like most teaching staffs. It's no, that's maybe that's good, maybe it's bad. In terms of, this is just another thing, and we'll do it for 2 years, and then we're gonna move into something else. Boards have to be convinced, just like staff does, that this is something that's not paddling with Madeline. We are gonna stay the course with this, and
it's funny that you say that, because I hear that over and over. It's like, the flavor of the day, and 8 years. I mean, most initiatives are in and out in 3.
Right.
So if our staff and administrators don't know this is kind of around for a while by now, they should. But yeah, that was really enlightening to me. I mean, I think we're probably one of the top 5 districts in the nation for personalized learning. And I kind of always...
We're actually number 1.
Well, okay. I was just being nice.
Lip service to the other 4.
But I mean, that's been corroborated by
Yes.
some of the feedback we've gotten from these groups that are, obviously have been researching that and have reached out to us and have, dove into this area quite extensively, and we've gotten that feedback from those groups. So it's nice to get that additional affirmation of what we're doing. So great job. Thank you for doing that. So with that, it's been great discussion tonight. I appreciate everyone, your time, your attention, especially when the weather would seem to want your time and attention. So everyone have a great night. Thanks so much, and we will adjourn.
This is for you with all these little The ribbon.